Hello, thank you all for participating in our Comm 410 focus group. The purpose of today's meeting is to learn more about the way you bank, the technology you use associated with banking, and who you bank with and why. Please know that this discussion will be videotaped for later analysis and that you have the right to stop at any time during the discussion. To start off, is everyone familiar with what a focus group is?
Yes.
Yep, cool. Has anyone ever participated in a focus group? No. Yes? Sweet, okay. Please think of this as a free-flowing discussion between everyone and not just a Q&A where we take turns. Please be respectful and do not interrupt other participants, but feel free to share your thoughts and opinions openly and honestly. Before we begin, please silence your phones. Thanks. And does anybody have any questions? Cool. Okay. So we're gonna just start with an icebreaker. So we'll go around the room. So we're gonna go around the room, and if you want to just say your name, if you're a student, what you're studying, if you work, where you work, and yeah, you want to start?
Okay. My name is Ashley. I work at the Disneyland Resort, and I'm getting my master's in business administration.
My name is Maddie. I also work for the Disneyland Resort, and I'm also getting my master's in business administration.
I'm Austin. I work at BevMo. I graduated with bachelor's in something.
I'm Matt. I graduated from Cal State San Marcos with a degree in economics.
I'm Heidi, and I'm getting my BA in Comm disorders.
Oh, I'm Kira. I go to Long Beach, and I'm getting my degree in liberal arts for elementary school teaching.
Hi, my name is Todd. I go to UCI, and I'm majoring in Earth System Science.
Okay. Thanks, guys. So now with those note cards you have, I want you all to write down something just crazy that you've done. Go as out there as you want. It can be silly, it can be embarrassing, whatever. I want you to write it down, fold it in half. Then we're gonna put them all in a hat, and then you're all gonna draw one out, and then you're gonna have to guess who it is. Thank you. Start. All right. Ashley, you want to go first?
Chewed an entire pack of gum in one sitting.
That's pretty wild.
I have no idea. Want me to guess?
Yeah, just pick somebody.
I'm guessing you.
No.
You want to keep going?
No, let's just do one. At the end, we'll go through any ones that didn't get picked. I'll guess correctly.
It says humped fan. I don't know what that means. Did I read that right?
Sounds like
it.
Swam with sharks. Let me go with you.
I got skydiving. I'm gonna go pond. Sorry.
Fun.
Okay.
Got jumped on a cruise at 4 a.m. after drinking for 10 hours. I'm gonna go with you.
I didn't do one.
Oh, you.
Thanks, though.
Made it happen.
Yes, it was awesome. Kira.
Mine was snorkel with leopard sharks, even though we didn't see any. I'm gonna go with you.
Okay, I went to the hospital in Prague because I ate walnuts and had an allergic reaction. You?
No, I have allergic to peanuts though.
Yes.
Everybody guessed me for everything.
So who was that?
Me.
Nice. Is there a fun backstory to that, or?
I was just an idiot and ate this thing called Tredlenick, and it was literally covered in walnuts, and my face swelled up like Hitch.
Yikes. What'd you have?
Circle with leopard sharks.
And who was that?
Mine. I didn't get to see any of that one.
Oh man.
It was just terrifying getting out there in the first place because the waves are scary.
Where was that?
It was in San Diego.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, how do you know who yours was? Matt, what'd you get?
I got skydiving.
It was me.
Fun. Where'd you do that?
Where? In Paris?
Oh, wow.
California.
Oh.
Yeah. You made that sound super fun.
You should have just gone with it.
The video is prime.
All right, swam with sharks.
Oh.
I did it. Yeah, I did it in Hawaii last summer.
The hump fan.
I couldn't think of anything, so I copied a phone for the episode.
Nice. I respect
From
that.
Gene.
Shoot an entire pack of gum in one sitting.
Yeah, that was me. It was for a
Wow.
project. It wasn't interesting, but that was the only thing I could think of. So I was like, alright, that's what I'm put on there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that broke the ice a little bit. We're a little more comfortable. So we're gonna just dive into the questions now. Anybody jump in wherever you feel comfortable. It's not like a your turn kind of thing. We just want everyone to have a discussion. So we're gonna start off with who do you currently bank with?
Bank with Chase.
Bank with Chase.
Chase.
America First Credit Union
Okay.
in Utah.
Okay. Is there a reason for that?
That's who I started banking with, like when I had money and had an account to put it into. And then when I moved out to California, I didn't see the need to pull it to California because they've never done me wrong and I don't have any problems. So never been charged any fees and I like them. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everyone else is with Chase.
I'm with Union Bank.
Union Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we heard your story, but otherwise, what made you guys choose Chase or Union Bank? Is there a specific reason for that? Is there a story behind it?
So I also have a USAA bank. Family in the military is why I have the USAA bank. Parents bank with Chase, and they have a ton of options that you're able to accessibly use at all times, pretty much. Going in and out of the country never seems to be a problem with them, so that's one of the reasons we chose them.
Yeah, Chase was kind of just handed down. My dad's an accountant, so anytime anything financial comes up and it's his advice, I'm like, yep, I'm gonna take that. Moving on.
Same, my mom had Chase, so I have Chase.
Okay.
Same.
All right.
Same.
Well, I used to live in Lake Arrowhead, and that's where my parents' bank was, so yeah, I chose that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just chose it because I had a lot of options. And my parents don't use Chase either, so it was just a good choice for me, I think, at the time, because they're really easy for college students to get into. So I was like, okay.
Okay. What was it about the college account there that was appealing opposed to maybe somewhere else?
I think they had no interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like no late fee, like if you drop below a balance because you're in college, they know you're poor. So they're like, we won't charge you like low balance fees.
Okay. Awesome. What do you guys mainly use your bank for? Is it like loans, checkings, savings, credit card?
Mostly for checking for me and credit cards.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Okay.
Checkings and savings.
Yeah, checking and savings as well.
Checking, savings, and a credit card.
Checking and savings.
Okay.
Check-ins.
Is there a reason for that? Is there anything specific about checkings and savings as opposed to a credit card or loans or anything else?
So I also have a credit card through them. Until recently, I've never had to deal with charges for non-payments. My bill is higher than it normally is typically right now, so I am paying payments, but in the past I've never had to deal with that, and I've been with them for almost 10 years now. So I haven't had to deal with payments. And to their credit, that is why I got Chase as well. They didn't do any school deductions or anything while you were in school. I have a savings account that's still under a student account, so I don't get charged for having a savings account, which is really nice to not have to deal with having a savings account under something else or someone else.
Same. I have the college savings account, and it's always just made it easier. And the app is pretty easy and convenient.
Are you guys familiar using any other apps with any other banks, or have you seen like your friends use them?
I've seen
Anything?
I use a USAA app as well. The Chase app's a lot more user friendly. It's easier to deal with. Your functionality for finding what you're looking for and what you need to do is easy to find. The USAA one was not quite as easy to find. You'd have to select item to item to item to item instead of this is what I want to do and that's what I'm going to do. So it made it a lot easier to deal with from that perspective.
My girlfriend uses the Wells Fargo app, and I haven't seen a huge difference between the Chase app, but that's just the only comparison I have. So that would be my example.
My bank has its own app. It's super easy, super user friendly, and you can call the bank like from the app. It's pretty quick.
Okay.
I have a credit card through them. When I decided I should start building credit, if I ever wanted to get a loan, I just thought it was pretty natural to just start with a credit card through them. My limit was really low, it was only $500, but it just recently went up to $750, but I don't feel the need to make it any higher because it's just, I don't know. And the rate's pretty low on it, so.
How important is using that app to you guys? Is that something that you use it every day, like all the time? Your banking, is that the major way that you interact with the bank?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the problems I run into with USAA specific, when I purchased my first car, I purchased through USAA to get a lower interest rate on the car itself. It would take 3-4 days because USAA is based out of Texas. It took 3-4 days for my payments to post. So if I didn't pay on time versus Chase, instantaneous, usually it was within the day if you do it in the morning, otherwise it posts the next morning. So it makes it easier to deal with, and I can keep easier track of my money. I know, oh hey, I paid this today, it came out of my account today. I don't have to worry about it not coming out of my account for 4 days. So that's one of the benefits of Chase specific.
Okay.
I've actually had a huge problem with my bank lately because I've been paying rent and then it'll take days for that to process. So it's like, it shows in my account that there's still, whatever it is, $600, but then there really isn't. So it's kind of confusing. That's something that I've had issues with for sure. But the app itself, it will show once that goes through finally.
Right,
Yeah,
and you're
when it
accessing all
does.
that through the app, not
Yes.
through their website or going to the bank in person.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll occasionally use the Chase website, so that would be the only other way I'd interact with my bank, just to get account numbers and stuff if you need to set up direct deposit or anything like that. And then I'll usually use the app to help build my savings. They have like an auto save feature that for a deposit over a certain amount, it'll deposit money and it'll take part of it and put it in the savings account, so I use that.
Mine, because my parents also have the same bank, they can either transfer me money or I transfer them super easy. Same, all through the app, so super nice.
Okay. So we already discussed this. What do you guys like about your bank? I mean, most of it's going to be Chase, but what are the pros?
It's fast, and it's quick, and they don't charge fees that often.
Okay.
And they're really forgiving, like if you miss a payment or whatever, you call them, and they'll just be like, oh, okay, and they'll just fix it.
True.
And it's like,
Yeah.
They're very user friendly. It's easy to use. You don't have to really worry about anything specifically on the Chase front. Versus USAA, if you hit a wall, you have to call. There's not an option. It's calling or it's not. So, I mean, being able to not have to talk to a person, we all know it's mostly automated systems until you get to a body. So you have to play that whole game in order to talk to a person. That can take 10 to 15 to 20 minutes to get through that portion, and then you're sitting on hold for who knows how long to actually talk to a physical person and get what you need. So it's easier with Chase to specifically get through to someone and talk to them immediately. It's not a whole game, and if you need something, majority of the stuff you can do on your phone. You can get a new card on your phone, you can dispute credits on your phone, you don't have to do any extras. It's just straightforward to the point.
You can deposit checks with that,
Yep,
too,
that
Okay.
as well.
which is super dope. Yeah.
Rather than going to the bank or the ATM and doing it, you just do it through your phone every time.
Take pictures.
Sign the back,
Yep.
take a picture, and it takes like a couple hours sometimes, depending on how much the check is.
Yep.
But like I've deposited like a $300 one, and I think it took like 4 hours.
Yep.
It was super cool. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds convenient.
It is, and they give you a little percentage, like, oh, a $400 check, we'll give you 100 for now, and 300 in 4 hours, or whatever it is.
Yep.
So that's really, really cool.
Sorry.
I like how, because mine's just a credit union, so it's small. It's not a big bank like Chase. And I like the fact that it's small because every time I went into a branch, there was never a line. I don't have that option anymore because it's very concentrated in Utah and I believe Las Vegas, so parts of Nevada. But because it's small, I've literally never been charged a fee before because it was just a credit union. And they have some really cool rewards programs. So if you're spending your money at certain places, then they'll give you cash back. So
Chase does the exact same thing for debit cards. So you like go into the app, scroll down, and it'll be like, oh, add these places to your cards. If you shop there, you get 5% back, 2% back, whatever. And it's good places. Like, I'm not some like random like Massage MV. I'm like, I'm not gonna go there. But they'll have like Leader Stencil or like Del Taco, and I'm like, yeah, it's like all the time. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I think that's my favorite thing about Chase. And I've already earned like $9.
Yeah, that's nice. So I have a card that gets me 5% back for all spending, and I can pick and choose. The only thing I don't care for specific is it trades off block to block to block from each quarter to year.
Yeah.
So you don't get the same thing all the time. So I drive a lot. I'd love to have gas all the time.
That's
You only usually get that about once a year.
They're cheap sometimes.
Yeah, so it depends, but it absolutely is awesome that you're
it
able
is.
to get cash back for everything you spend on. So.
I'm actually not a huge fan of my bank. It sounds like I should switch to Chase. No, honestly, because this all sounds so crazy to me. I'm like, dang, it goes through so quick. When I get Venmo transactions, it takes forever. Like, it can take up to like 3 days. And so I'm like, Mom, I need gas. And then, I need gas right now, but it's not going to come through. So, yeah.
And they have Zelle.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Yeah,
the
it
same thing.
is
So
too.
that's how I pay my rent.
Yeah, and Daniel has Schools First, and they have Zelle, so we can send money to each other, so you don't even have to have the same bank. And it's literally like 2 seconds. You just get it, tap it, and it goes right
It
away.
goes immediately,
Cool.
leaves
Super
your
dope.
account, and goes right to that.
What bank are you?
Union Bank.
Union.
Yeah.
So to anyone that might not be clear, our focus group is specifically researching Bank of America, which is a little less appropriate since everyone is in the case. But let's just talk about Bank of America for a minute. What do you guys know about them?
I've actually had Bank of America, and I hated it.
What about them did you hate?
They charge for everything. Savings accounts are like the biggest, because my grandma had Bank of America, and so when I was younger, she put me under it so I could have like my own like little kid saving account, I guess, whatever. And when I turned 18, you had to like get all your money out, but they wouldn't release it. So like it's still there. Like I have yet to get it, and I'm 23 years old. They're not that very like friendly. Yeah, they're not. They charge you for everything. Like if you have like $100 and you go like to like negative 2 pennies, they will charge you $35 and they will not reverse it. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, so upon looking for banks when I came out of college, obviously I looked across the board. Parents went with Chase, but you explore your options to see.
Yeah.
That's what Bank of America has a lot of. It's payments, charges. So they've had a lot of issues. They do have Zelle Pay, so I know they have that on the app as well. So that is one positive that I know of. They do have a lot of different options that most banks do offer. So I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. But when you're on the bad side, you don't want to be on the bad side with Bank of America. That's for sure. They're gonna nickel and dime you for everything they've got.
They don't have a forgiveness.
Does anybody else know anything about them or?
I know they're huge. I mean, they're a very large company. I think the only time I ever used them was before a study abroad. I needed to go exchange some money for, I can't remember what I was exchanging for, but they did charge me a pretty penny, just a fee on top of the fact that I was losing money in the exchange. So
I do believe they're the second biggest bank, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So we've already talked about with the banks you use, some of the things that you're happy that they offer. What would you like to get out of them that you're not currently being offered? Services or plans, accounts, whatever.
For Chase, I'd like to be able, because I've had to go online for like the actual like routing number and account number, and it's hard to find that on the app sometimes, and so I think that would be something I'd like from Chase.
To have that more streamlined in the app, maybe?
Yeah, streamline in the app.
Okay.
So
Either I can't find that or I can't find it. So
Easy access to that would be better, so I have checks, so I have access to mine, and I know mine in my head on its own, but it would be nice to not, if I don't recall exactly what it is, instead of having to go look at a check every single time, that would definitely be something nice to be able to just, oh, hey, this is what my routing number is, so that when you get a new job, you can just say, hey, this and this, there you go, and it's not an issue.
I believe you can check your statement PDF.
That's what I found mine.
Yeah.
I thought I could
I
only
screenshotted it.
Yeah. It's definitely on there. I think it should be more an easy access.
Yeah,
than-
you have to go through a couple things
Yeah.
to get to it, yeah.
Yeah, that should be something that you should be able to pull up. I mean, we all need that when you get a job, and if you want direct deposit, that's
Yeah.
something that most people
Yeah.
typically do. That's just something that should probably be
I feel like it should be like in the corner of the app.
Yeah, it should be with your account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something
With your
like
account
that
info,
around
it
there,
should be
yeah.
right there for you.
Or you just have to re-enter a password.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My app doesn't do any sort of like push notifications, but if it noticed something got spent out of the ordinary, it would be nice to get like a little push being like, hey, check this, just make sure that everything's cool. Because most of the time they'll call me and just be like, hey, this is kind of weird, is this normal? Or they'll just block the payment altogether. But just even like a quick push, like, did you actually spend this? Yes, okay, cool, then you're good. So that would be really nice.
So USA
A
does.
simple push notification on your phone
Yeah.
rather than a phone call or an email.
So Chase does that to me. USA
Yeah.
does not. So I've gone to Mexico with USAA and used my USAA card, and they blocked my payment. Fortunately, I had a Chase card, and it worked, and they didn't even question it. It was a non-issue, but yeah, that is definitely something that would be nice for other people to have. That it shouldn't be an issue if I'm traveling. I shouldn't have to notify you for every single travel that I make. I mean, perhaps a travel to Europe is a little bit different than a travel down to Mexico for a weekend, but
I had gone to Florida, tried to go to Walmart, and they blocked me.
okay, that's
Wow.
even worse. So if you're inside the United States, I mean, it's nice that your bank checks on you, and that's something important that all banks should probably do, because your protection is their job. So that's an important thing. But it would be nice if it could be something as simple as, like, for example, I have this issue when I'm at work sometimes, and people will get a notification that they're having a fraudulent charge on their card while they're trying to check out at Bevmo. And it shows up as not Bevmo on their thing if it's the first time they're purchasing in the store. It'll show up as some weird thing. And then the bank has to deal with it. Some of them, it's super easy. They just click the button, say, no, I confirm, scan the card again, done.
That would be really nice.
Some people, Citibank, I think, is the most issued card I have specific at Bevmo, where we have people go outside and call, and they're on the phone for 10 to 15 minutes trying to get their stuff figured out, and then they come back and then they're able to make their purchase. But that challenge I've seen from that perspective of Citibank, where you're sitting on the phone talking to somebody instead of being able to hit that push notification and fix that problem immediately.
I think it would be super nice to be able to call your bank or to contact them way easier. That's like one thing I've been thinking about, because when a payment doesn't go through or something happens and it takes hours for you to call your bank and say, hey, I need some help or whatever, I don't want to be waiting on a line. I think it'd be nice to be able to contact people, not a robot.
So to bounce off that a little bit, I had a job where at some point for a couple, like I worked with car payments a lot to simplify it. And so if anybody like had a double payment, we had to, and they wanted a refund, we would have to call their bank to confirm that like it's been through. And Bank of America was like easily the worst, like customer service to go ahead and call through. Like Chase was pretty good. I think I even worked with like Union Bank, and Union Bank was good, and a couple others. And then Bank of America was like, I think I was on the phone. I had a customer on the phone and trying to reach out to Bank of America, and it was an hour and a half. So I had to go back and forth and be like, I'm still on the phone with them, please let me go back, and then stay on hold.
Yeah, they're stingy. Like they know it's like they literally aren't like, bro, I'm 2 cents under. Like, give me my $35 back. No. Like I literally had somebody need to be more responsible. I was like, okay, mom, thanks, but no.
We'll go ahead and tie that into my next question. Have you ever sought any financial guidance or financial investments, advice, things like that from your bank or any of those kind of services?
Yes. I think when I first Are you talking about like for Bank of America or for Chase?
For Chase is
For
fine.
Chase, yes.
Yeah, rather than
They give you plans.
Bank of America lecturing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, because I did both. Like when I first started, like my first job right out of high school, I had Bank of America first for like a good, I want to say like 6 months before I got Chase. And I did advising because you're right out of high school. They don't want you to like blow up everything, but they're very like judgmental. Like they don't give you a lot of advice, and Chase gave me like a lot of advice. Did I follow it? No. But they still like gave it to me anyways. They were just like, oh, try doing this since you're in college. This is the best thing for you. Get this card, don't get this card. Do this, don't do that. But at the end, it's up to you. Like, and Mary was very like, just do this. Like, I just want you to leave. Like, just take this, go. And so, yeah, they were very like pushy and judgy.
So I haven't dealt with anyone in that perspective, but when I sat down with Chase when I got my card originally, you know, obviously when you first get a credit card, your limit is super low, which is fine, but they advised me to set specific limits on my savings accounts, on my spending accounts. That way, if something flagged over the amount, I mean, I was in college, so it's not like I was paying giant bills or anything, so we set the limit, I believe, to $125 at that time. So anything that would flag over that, it would notify me so I could see if there was an issue with the card. And it happened a few times that there was an issue. I had a stolen card for some reason, and then I was able to eradicate that problem very quickly, and I was able to track my spending on that factor. But that's the only real situation I've dealt with where I've had financial advice from them.
I haven't had to do anything, or not had, but I haven't really explored a lot of options with Chase, but the one thing I can remember is when I was, 16 or 15, we opened a savings account with them, and I still remember the banker's name. Banker's name was Jeff, and it was such a good interaction that I still remember it to this day. So I think that speaks volumes for what I did.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's clearly a pretty negative image for B of A among a lot of the people sitting here. What would help this? What would improve that for you?
I think they've done this themselves. There's a lot of negative volume out there about them, regardless of what people have experienced in this room. There was a situation with homeowners in 2009 that happened with them that negatively affected a lot of people. That's probably not what you want. You need to go out of the way to give your customer service. I work in a customer service industry. If my customer's not happy, then they're not going to come back. It sounds like from interaction, I haven't had a lot of direct interaction, but it sounds like they're not going out of their way to take care of their customer. I mean, 2 cents is not a ton of money from your experience, and for them to be whining about that, if I had Chase, or I have Chase, and I don't think I've ever had a low volume limit, but I don't think that I would have that issue. I always make my payments on time, and if you were to have a little hiccup, there should be some sort of menial leeway pending on the situation, but 2 cents is not something that you should be haranguing a college student for. So, customer service is the biggest thing. I think that's what their primary focus should be on, and taking care of their customers in any way that they can. That clearly the thing that Chase does, and probably definitely the smaller banks, is it's customer friendly. You know who you're dealing with, you know who you're talking to, especially the smaller ones. I mean, if you can find that camaraderie and be able to help your customer in the way that they need, that's what's going to get people to come back to you. And then you can change your perception of this negative vibe that you have to something that's positive.
Yeah. I agree. Their customer service is just not, and I feel like low-key they're kind of like a cult. Like I feel like everyone that has Bank of America is like trapped, so they can't get out. Like I still have that account. Like even though like I don't use it, it's still there. Like it's still, like I could go in there and be like, oh hey, this is my account, and they'll be like, oh here it is. You're not getting your money. And it's like, hey. But like I feel like if you have it, like you legit like cannot leave, because I don't understand like why, with all the other banks there are, like why you would want to stay with a company that's like not good. Like I've never heard ever one person say anything good about Bank of America. Like ever.
Everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like customer service is their biggest thing they need to work on. And I feel like they know that, but they don't really care.
Have you attempted to actually close your account with them?
Since I was 18.
And
So,
how did those interactions go?
Very bad. Like I graduated when I was 17, and then I was gonna stick with Bank of America since I already had the savings account, so I was gonna open a debit card account like with it, and they wouldn't let me. Well, they did let me do that, but it wasn't. I don't want to. it wasn't really a debit card. It was like a card for my savings, but they charge you when you use it. Yeah, but you would get charged if you use it within like a certain amount of time because it's your savings. You're not supposed to withdraw from your savings, but it's not what I wanted. And then like I tried to close it a bunch of times. My grandma has tried to close it, but since it's my name, I have to close it. But when I go do it, it's under her name, so it's like a weird. I'm like, so who needs to close it? Like, who needs to be here? And it's still open to this day. Like, I can't just leave it there. Like, it's not really doing anything. I have Chase, so.
I think maybe one of their biggest issues is because they're so large, they have kind of forgotten like who actually keeps them in business, which is people. So maybe if they change their mindset to think a little bit smaller and maybe focus like specifically on branches and like the customer service there. So just thinking smaller scale. And maybe that would help them a little bit. Because I think it's almost just gotten too big for themselves.
Okay. All right, so moving on. How satisfied are you guys with the services that are offered to you with your bank?
Very satisfied.
Not satisfied.
Not satisfied. Okay, so one against Union Bank, everyone else.
So one of the things that I really like is I purchase a lot of beer. I like to drink beer. It's a hobby of mine. It allows me to track that and how much I'm spending and if I purchase for somebody else or not. So it makes it really easy for me to determine how much I'm spending and where I really kind of need to stay in my spectrum of spending. So it really breaks down, you know, I'm spending on entertainment, I'm spending on beer, I'm spending on which, what, or the other. I really like that aspect. It really breaks it down. I'd like it to be broken down more, but the factor that it gives me a breakdown each month, I can go scale back from, hey, how much did you spend this month? How much did you spend the month before? How much did you spend the month before? How much did I spend last year? It really gives you an explanation of what you're spending and kind of you can gauge that so that you know how much you're able to spend based on your income, based on what you are able to do in your specific mindset in life. So I like that aspect. I use that usually weekly to check that.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
My bank doesn't do that, but I download the Mint app, and I've used that for quite a few years, and it has the same kind of thing. But I also have an American Express card, so it connects that as well. So I have everything together. So that's pretty cool. But it would be nice if I could if you could even just assign like specific companies to one of those categories, so you can track it better that way. Having that would be really cool.
Okay. So we'd all like the ability to track our purchases a little bit better based on what category it would fall into. Sounds like.
Like for example, yes, that would be very cool. I think if you specified what your needs were specific,
like make it your own.
Exactly. So like mine doesn't fall under some category that's called beer.
Yeah.
It falls under a category that I believe is called shopping.
Shopping. Okay.
That
so
could be anything. Exactly. That could be anywhere. I know what it is because I know what I buy, but it would be nice to know if I have something in this chunk, if it's not beer related, what it is. So being able to create a customizable some sort of situation where you can, you know, really pick and choose based off of the user and make it more user friendly for you. I mean, this feature I think is relatively new. If I can remember, I want to say the last couple of years. So it wasn't an option before. It is now, and I mean, obviously, we'll grow into what I'm speaking about now in the future because I'm sure they'll have the same exact idea at some point or be suggested it.
I think like on the top of the app too, it tells you your weekly, like you spent this much this week.
Yeah, it tells you a daily
like
spending.
No, it would be nice. It's more that I don't want to look at the number.
Yeah, like I'll see it and I'm like, don't remind me. This week. But it's a good little tracker.
It's a convenient feature to have, even if we feel guilty about it.
Well, like the Mint app, I believe that has a feature where it kind of you can create the balance you want to spend. That would be a cool feature to have. I mean, you can do it in your own head and decide what it is that you're looking to spend. But I mean, that may be
Okay.
And you can have a savings bar. You can have different features that Chase doesn't have quite that. But I mean, it's a similar idea if it wasn't in your head. So I mean, you can track it on your own. Is basically the way that Chase's is currently set up.
So we want things that will help us track our spending to spend responsibly.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Oh yeah.
Categorize spending.
Yeah.
I feel like
Categorize.
help save would be cool too.
Okay.
Like maybe like
So
when you spend
they
random.
have those features, so you can set them up. You
What?
just have to set them up.
Like if you buy something, it'll round up for you and you'll put it into it.
You have to
Like
find it in
something?
there. It's something similar to that,
Wow.
but you would
That's
you would
like
have to
that'd be
do it.
super dope.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's an autosave
Yeah.
where if like you could set a certain amount. So if there's a deposit over like $400, you can have a percentage or a number amount go toward your savings account.
Oh, okay.
So like anytime I get a deposit, I get $250.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So like when I get my paycheck that I'll get tomorrow night, it'll deposit some of my money into savings. The rest of it will go into my checking account.
I think I had that. I meant like if you buy something for like $2.85, that cents will go into your savings account. So we'll round it up to $3.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, what like Ashton Kutcher does.
Yes.
Instead of like
Okay.
investing, it's savings.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
kind of savings accounts. But like I feel like if we go into like a savings account, I don't know. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. It could be like an option, like round up to go into my savings. Yeah. But I feel like that'd be cool.
Okay.
That'd be an interesting option
Yeah.
for sure. An easy option too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not like you're dumping money in there, but
Exactly.
you're just sliding
Yeah.
cents and cents and cents and
Mhm.
cents.
Eat a little easier, less
Yep.
painful. Yeah.
How important is savings to you guys? Is that something that you're building towards? Is that like an aggressive plan? Is that more incremental like you're talking about where it might just be a little bit at a time? But is that something that we're actively doing?
Trying
As of
to.
now. Yeah,
Trying
see, that's
to.
a keyword.
Yeah.
Trying.
It depends on the setting that you're specifically in as a person.
Mhm.
Everybody's in a different spot. It's a lot harder to save when you're in school. When you move out on your own, that is also another challenging time to save, especially when you first move out until you've established yourself and you have a job that supports the lifestyle that you want to live. But you also have to think about, is this a lifestyle that I can maintain, or is it something that I want and need to continue to achieve towards? So savings is huge. I have actually, I think, 6 different accounts with savings. Not all through Chase. They're kind of scattered across the board through USAA, Chase, and a few other smaller places like Union Bank.
Some offshore.
But yeah, I have some offshore. But anyway, no. But point being is we all have to think about from a perspective of retirement is going to be in your future at some point. You hope. Probably the median age, I'm assuming, of this group is probably around 25 to 23, somewhere in that range. Retirement's going to be a long ways away for most of us if we understand the way the economy works now. Unless you get a killer job and you're able to wisely spend and save your money, you need to save in order to survive, because a 401k may not get it done anymore. You know, you're going to have to do that little extra mile, so it's going to be that much more important for you to pay attention to your spending, your savings, and how that works for you. So last year, I dug myself a nice deep hole. It was real great. Not worth it. Anyway, point being is now I'm tracking my spending at a very, very, very conscious level. I'm looking daily, weekly to pay attention to what am I spending, where can I cut back. So I've cut back almost in half of what I typically spend in a month in the last 2 months, because last year I spent an atrocious amount of money. Happens, we all make mistakes, but if you can pay attention to the fact that you're making this mistake and you can consciously change that, you can change your I didn't save that much money last year to now I'm back into the I can save this amount of money this much a month. And if you can put it into some sort of mutual account or a growth account, you can grow that money into something larger.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to think about that. It's ultimately important for all of us because we want to retire. You don't want to be 80 years old and still working.
It is just not something that's super convenient for me to be thinking about right now because I am in school. So, you know, I get like X amount of money from my parents, X amount of money from my job, and then I'm like, you know, I do think about it. I'm like, oh, I should save that. But then I'm like, I have $50 left. I think I should get gas. You know what I mean? So, like, that's
it is very
more of what
challenging.
And then when you
to
graduate,
manage
you gotta think about the loans.
Yes, exactly. So that's where I'm like, you know, saving is not a huge priority for me right now. I think as I get older, as I, you know, go into my stages of maybe working, you know, I want to work with kids and communications and whatever. So maybe as an SLP assistant, I'll be making a little bit more. I'll start putting a little bit of money away, probably not.
So from the loan and savings perspective, obviously if you went to school, you typically have a loan, I assume. Everybody here has a loan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I did not have a loan either. I had a job when I was 14 and I saved all of my money and I paid for all my college through that. So I had enough to buy a car after I burned my first car into the ground, and got a new one, and I had enough savings to pay for about half of it. And I've got, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 amongst my different ones right now, but that's having to build it back up from nothing.
Yeah.
Because I had to use it all for paying for school, and I have no school loans. I unfortunately just had to buy a new car a month ago. Long story, doesn't matter. But anyway, I haven't had a car payment in a couple years as well. So if you pay your payments on time, you can, you know, get yourself into a good position to be able to do stuff. And if you save smart, you can definitely utilize the money in a way that helps you, like saving for a home someday, or a car, or whatever it may be.
So I know for me right now, I'm saving my tips from work because I work at Starbucks.
Yep.
So we get tips every Tuesday, so that's what I'm doing. I mean, like, I wish I would be more consistent, but I mean, it's hard, especially as a college student, you know? Like, I did have the Chase savings, but I closed it because I got into it too many times. So they were like, you need to not have it. And I was like, okay. But like, I try to save like as much as I can, but it's hard. Like, especially when you want to live a certain lifestyle, like it's very hard. Especially when you're so young and like, do I really need to save for a house right now? No, I don't.
Well,
I'll do it later.
And everything is, so I'm 29. Things are a little bit more expensive than when I was 21, a lot more expensive. So when I was 21, I went out a lot and drank a lot. And believe it or not, you know, that was a funny story, but we won't talk about it today, not on camera. Yeah, deny. Exactly. But it's crazy to think that I had enough money to do that all the time and still save. And now, if I do that, one night is what I spent in a week going out somehow. Don't get me, I have no idea how, but I'm like, oh, okay, one night's good. That's good. And then the savings factor now is a little bit drawn back. So, you know, you just have to pick and choose what you're doing, and it's hard because, especially depending on, you know, everybody's background, you may have been brought up a certain way or had certain privileges. You know, some people are brought up as you get whatever you want, whenever you want, and that's what it is. And when you go out into the world, it's not quite exactly how it works. It's great to have great parents that are able to do that for you, but I think that it has a double-edged sword because you don't realize how good you have it until you've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, you know, paying attention to those sorts of things and understanding where you can scale back. So, food. For example, when I moved out, I was like, oh, I need so much food.
Literally.
And yeah, grocery shopping. So, you know, you go to the store, you buy $200-300 worth of food, and you throw away probably $50 to $60 worth because you didn't eat it all or it went bad or whatever it is. I have changed my grocery shopping completely. I will either shop weekly or I will shop daily.
Get what you need for that.
Get what you need for that particular meal. That way, you know, your waste is minute as possible, and that way it is just one little thing that I did to change my spending habits. So I'm not dumping this much money in. I'm putting in this much and getting my return.
Yeah.
And that way you play that game a little smarter. You'll have leftovers for tomorrow or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So even if we're not all at a point in our life where we're ready to start aggressively saving, we can all agree this is something that we're striving for, we're thinking about it, and it is in the long-term plans, even if that's not where we're at right now.
Yes.
So I'm actually at a point where I wouldn't say I'm aggressively saving, aggressively incrementally saving. So like every paycheck, putting a little bit away every time. And it's for long-term goals such as like retirement stuff, but it's also for like short-term goals like moving out, you know, getting an engagement ring, all that stuff kind of coming up. No, stuff like that, because I've definitely had to put that. No, but I've definitely had to put that more into perspective. Just saving money toward that, and I'm lucky enough, depending on the word. I'm still living with my parents right now, so that's become more of a priority. Is like, hey, I can save money and take advantage of this versus like separate it. So it's been kind of a thing where, you know, I'm trying to save as much as I can and still have fun and still, you know, be able to have some freedom with it. But it definitely has shifted, being at home, being like, okay, there's a purpose why I'm at home, and so it's part of the reason I'm still at home, and we're on our way out. We're close.
Do you guys trust your banks with your money?
Yes.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Union Bank is the yeah rather than just a definite yes?
I mean, does trust mean that I think that they're gonna mishandle it? Is that kind of?
Yeah. If you were to go to withdraw your money, do you think it will be there? Do you trust
Oh
it?
yeah. No, I actually went to the bank the other day, and I think that their customer service, like in-person type of interaction, is great. I just think that overall, like, I just don't understand hearing about Chase from all of you guys, why, Union Bank is so slow. Like, I'm not sure if there's something wrong with the banking or if the way I'm transferring the money is not efficient. Like, I don't know.
It might just be the infrastructure.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
just
it
don't
honestly
have
could
the
be.
ability because they're smaller than Chase.
Right, that's very true. So, yeah, overall, I mean, yes, I trust them with my money. Basically, I feel like they're just holding on to it for me in an ineffective way.
Okay.
Yes.
What would make that more effective?
If they were more like Chase, if they, if they, had like kind of the things that you guys were talking about, showing me what my transactions look like, faster transfers, just kind of, getting me or giving me a better. Basically, I think at my age, I need to be given a good look at what my budgeting is looking like, and Union Bank lacks that a lot. I'll see how much I've been spending, but there really isn't. I mean, I get my monthly statement or whatever, but it's not like
There's not a customized plan. for you
customized, or it
guidance
doesn't feel like it helps me in any way. So you were asking, is there any way that I would go to them for any sort of guidance? Like, I don't feel like I would. So, yeah.
Okay. Are you aware of any guidance that they, or planners or anything like that they might offer, or is that just?
I think when I turned 16 and I got it with my mom, she was there with me, and the woman that was introducing me to it was, made it kind of like dumbed it down for me at that age and just kind of showed me what having a bank account is like, and that was awesome. I'm not entirely sure, if I would go into the bank and like ask them for certain financial advice. Like, I'm sure they offer those services, but I don't really think I would go there to ask for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think everyone else has touched on that a little bit. We can relate this to Chase or wherever else you bank. We talked about a lot of the good things. What are some of the inconveniences that you face on a regular basis?
Mine's out of state, so that's my problem. If I have I don't like cash because if I wanted to put it in, I can't. So that's my own problem. Having it out. So
when you get your checks deposited specific, do you have to wait for days for it to be deposited in your bank?
usually it's 24 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's
That's not
not
bad for getting out of state.
Wait, so you can't take out cash like at all?
I can use other credit union ATMs.
Okay.
So like with Disneyland's partners, I can use their ATMs with no fees, but
Okay.
other ATMs would have fees.
That's cool. Okay.
Also, it seems like their app is under maintenance when I need it the most, so I use their website when it's down. So
Okay. Do you find using the website to be easy enough?
yeah, that's what I used long before I ever got the app. It's pretty much just the app in website form. So same exact things.
Okay.
Easy to use.
I don't really face a lot of challenges, and not that it's a challenge, but I mean, you have stuff in pending status sometimes longer than others, but I mean, that's your bank checking on what you're spending and making sure it's okay, so it's not really an issue. It's more of an inconvenience at times when you're like, how much money do I have? Okay. So it's not really a giant inconvenience, because usually it's posted within 2 to 3 days with Chase. If not sooner, it's usually pretty quick.
Does yours have like a balance after pending
Yes.
option?
So
Okay.
I have one that says
Like balance.
actual balance, pending balance, and the difference. Yeah.
Mine doesn't have that, so.
I think if you take, for example, the Mint app that you talked about, if these companies, regardless of who it is, if you go across the board and dive into that idea, if you're able to combine that in there, it's going to make it easier for everyone to deal with on the big format, and you're going to have less issues because you're going to have that user-friendly ability to do almost whatever you want.
I think for me, the one thing that I didn't like about Chase-ish was their broad credit limit. Can I ask, how much was yours when you first got your credit card there?
My first one, I co-signed with my mother and it was $22,000. Thanks,
Okay.
Mom. My first one by myself was, I believe, $5,500.
Okay.
And I only got that because the credit score on the first one was so good.
Okay.
I had made my payments all the time. I never had debt. I killed that one all the time.
Cause like I asked people like, oh, like your first credit card, 500. They give me 5,000 my first time opening. I'm like, I'm right out of high school. Let's not give me $5,000. But I mean, like, and it's just so all over the place. That's the one thing.
Did you have credit though?
No, I feel like it was hard because I used my grandma's credit and my mom's credit together.
Okay,
And then they're like,
that's why I
if you
got
can't
the
pay it off,
22,000
you
because
have
I
to
was
pay it
like,
off, but-
I don't need
Yeah, I
to.
was like, and that's
Yeah.
not a good idea. Like,
Yeah, no,
that's
it's
funny.
not.
Too much power.
So,
But-
and it was.
Yeah.
I learned very quickly within the first couple
Mhm.
months, like, oh shit, you can't just spend free will because you're gonna pay this back. So the first couple months were wild just because, you know, you get it and you have the limit that you have.
Yeah.
Like, I've never breached the limit on that limit, of course. I don't have the money to do that, unfortunately. But, you know, knowing that, then getting a new card, I never hit my limit on that. I have run into, I think, one time where I needed several $1,000s to take care of a pet issue that I didn't have the credit available. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't have the credit available to use that,
Okay.
and that was unfortunate. But that's the only time
Yeah.
I ever crossed that threshold. Otherwise, it's been fine.
That was like my only thing. I was just like, why is this so all over the place? My mom's is different, my accountant's different, mine's different. I have two friends that are
it's all
different.
about your credit.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes a lot more sense. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
So when you're in the credits of like, so mine's 700 and something at the moment.
Mhm.
I could open an account right now and get near that $10,000 mark right off the bat.
Okay.
Like my current one is at, I don't remember, 26,000 right now. I don't spend anywhere near that, but they just keep, because if you make payments on time all the time
Yeah.
and you pay more than you need to pay, I do have a slight hole at the moment, but I always make my payments and I usually pay a couple $1,000s on my $300 minimum payment that they want. As long as you keep doing that, your credit score keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and they'll do pretty much whatever you want because they want you to dig you a hole.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, the interest rate that they charge me each month sucks
Yeah, that's the
because they get you that 26%.
yeah,
I think
that's
is what
mine
it
is.
is,
I'm just like,
and it's $250 every
Yeah.
single month, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah,
that's not money that I'm
credit
spending.
score.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Amex is a tough one, and when you get past, like, the cool thing about Chase is when I've gotten all my cards, I've had that first 18 months, I want to say, was no interest. So you could do a shitload of damage.
You can't, yeah,
But
Just a
literally.
reminder, let's keep the language clean.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Anyway, you can do a lot of damage in that short period of time, but then you have to face the consequences.
Yeah.
So, here I am facing the consequences. They're not insane, but $250 of interest sucks
It does.
when you're trying to save because that is added on top of your quote unquote spending a month. So, you just have to pay attention to that.
Do you guys think about your credit score a lot? Tying back into the savings, I know this might be more of a long-term thing that we're striving for, but is that something that you're thinking about all the time?
All the time.
That was a-
Hardly think about it.
Hardly think about it? Okay.
So
I mean, I
Sometimes.
just started
I think
like
maybe that's just
credit
credit
card.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like almost less than a year ago. So I just started.
Sure.
I
So
check
early
on
in
it
the process.
monthly. They give you like a little, Chase gives you like, here's your updated credit score. No check. And I'll be like,
They do?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the best, but it's like, like they'll tell you like, oh, fair, good, you're on your way or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. But
Right.
it's not something I'm like, I need this to be good right now. But it's a goal of mine to get a really good credit score. But right now it's kind of just like,
Yeah, but you're thinking about it and
Yeah,
you're building
like
yourself
I
up.
care about it, and I'm just like, don't look at it. Like I actively try to pay more on bills and stuff, just because it does raise a little bit here and there. But like I'm not like really keenly like focused on it that much.
Right.
Sometimes I get a little scared when they're like, hey, it's your new one. I was like,
Don't
this is
look
not
at
a
it.
great month or a great 2 months, whatever it posts. But yeah, I mean, the older you get, the more likely you are to get, loans for a car, loans for a home. So your credit score is like everything to you. It's
Yeah.
really sad, actually.
So I worked in Honda's collection department. So I was calling people who were overdoing my car loans. Yeah, it was the
I
worst.
did that for my
Probably the worst job I've ever had. But so that immediately I think about my credit score every day because I had to deal with a lot of people who had real bad credit scores and were paying like $550 a month for a Civic or a Corolla, or Honda Civic. Yeah, that's my car. Yeah, Camry. That's what I'm thinking of. Nope, that's Toyota too. We tried. We tried to sound smart.
You worked for on. I think it's something you have to think about all the time. I think it's something that is under specified in high school. You should take a class that teaches you a lot of this stuff because you leave high school not thinking a whim about it. You know, most of us live at home with mom and dad during that time, or grandma and grandpa, or whoever it may be, and you don't have a care in the world. And then you need a loan for something, or you need something. Then you have to figure out what do you do now. And if your credit is 0 or you don't have any, then you're gonna be in trouble. So, you know, finding a way to get it up there. Chase is a good example of it's tough to behave because they're giving you a big one. Most people, like my sister got a Chase one, but she got a $500 limit because she asked for it specific.
Okay.
And she got it alone without any help. And she literally will spend the $500 and then pay it off the next month. That way she's just 100% building credit every single month. She'll just pay on it until she reaches her limit, then stop and just use her debit card, and then she's able to pay down time and time again. So she's built her credit to a massive amount. So if you're able to do that with your bank, that's huge. But if you can build the credit in a way that helps you, so I got the beneficiary of my parents signing with me, so that I was able to get a card that had a larger limit, but I still paid it off after learning very quickly that if you don't do that, you're gonna get in trouble. So, you know, it's something you should pay attention to because it will affect your future. And yes, of course, we pay more attention to it as we get older, but it would be more helpful if you learn that at a younger age so you knew immediately. Because I know plenty of people that have made some serious mistakes at a young age, spending money, and it
10 years later
gets them down the road where you are in a hole for a long time and you can't get out. So
I would absolutely love for my bank to inform me on these things because I don't necessarily know exactly, you know, I know in general, like what we're talking about, having a credit score, everything like that. I'm obviously not worrying about that, but it would be nice to kind of, okay, so what do I need it for? You know, why is this important? How do I, you know, not feel like I'm being tricked by my bank or in any way, you know what I mean? So to be educated in that way, like you said, asking for counsel or something like that, that would be great to just be able to go and say, hey, I need to understand how this works. Don't con me out of money, you know, like tell me straight up what I need to do, what's the best way to get a good credit score, you know, how can I maintain that?
So most banks will provide that service.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The biggest thing is they want you to make money, so they make money.
Right.
That's their goal. That's their end game. They want you to open an account that will basically make you money and them money at the same time. They want you to do it, so they will help you. So you just have to go there and sit and talk with them, and that way they can assist you in some way.
Okay. I think just part of like I don't like to leave my house unless I'm going to her house. Like if there were videos that your bank provided that was just like a hey,
tutorials would be awesome.
Yeah, like just brief tutorials on either services that they offer, because like I really don't want to go in there ever. So even if you could get like online counseling with somebody, like hey, I have a question about this. So having that accessibility with your bank that doesn't require you to go in and talk to someone, maybe it's even a video chat, but you know, it's just appealing to like this generation where we like everything at our fingertips. Just having it all either in an app or even just on their website would be, I think, a lot more helpful when it comes to like counseling and understanding credit scores and what helps you build a credit score. Is that just like a general YouTube video? Is that something that we all think we would take advantage of if it was available on the computer?
Well, it can help anyone. Someone that doesn't understand, someone that does understand and is struggling to get there. I mean, it can give you tips and ideas. Like, I mean, it's nice to have people in your life that can explain things to you and help you, but not everybody is aware of those sorts of things. If you could have some sort of generic tutorial that's say, hey, this is this, and this is what you need to do this, 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 and this. It just is going to help educate people to understand how to prioritize using their money, spending their money.
It'd be pretty easy to like get that out, like get the word out for that as well. It's like like right next to your credit score, hey, what do you need your credit score? Boom, YouTube video. Or, you know, how to save better, boom, something like that. That'd be really easy to just put on there. Because I feel like it'd be something that like everybody's like, oh yeah, I totally use that. And then like half the people would actually use it. And then half the people, or the other half of the people who wouldn't use it wouldn't know where to find it. So when you make it easily accessible and you make it really easy to put on there, people would do it. And it'd be really easy just to have a brief explanation, like a 3-minute thing right next to where it actually is. So it'd be easy to implement. It'd be straightforward, and it'd really help just customer service overall. Because it's like, hey, like I have this little video that really helped me at XYZ. I didn't even have to call anybody. You know, I didn't have to wait, 2 hours to get somebody on the phone or anything like that. Super easy, and just would really grow a lot of experience and a lot more positive experiences with the bank.
I feel like maybe knowing what your credit score means too would be kind of cool. Like whatever number you're at, like we all know that like it will show you like, oh, you're really good here, it's really bad here.
It'll show you
like,
what the ranges are.
Yeah, but like what does it mean? Like what does it mean if you're at an 850? Like what, like how important is it? You can buy a house.
I can help you with that. So on terms of that, so I was unsure. I unexpectedly had to get a new car this year. Did not have the savings for it, was not prepared in any way, shape, or form. Bought a new car in 2014 and was like, I'll be good for the next 10 years. I can start saving at some point and readdress that issue then. Well, issues happened with my car and here I am. So I was unsure, so I made my parents come with me to get a new car because I was like, oh, well, if I can't sign by myself, I'm gonna need help. I have a 720-ish score, ranging. I was able to sign for it by myself. It was a $30,000 car. So scalability, it's looking at, do you make your payments? Do you make them on time? Do you always make them? As long as you're doing that, your credit score ends up going up. So you're able to get these options. Since they see you never missed a payment, you've never had any of those sorts of issues, you're given more leeway when you have that higher credit score. So that's really what it's judging on. When you have the lower ones, like I have a friend that works at another BevMo. His is very, very low because he made some poor choices in his life. So his credit card limits, he has I think like 6 or 7 credit cards all spanning across the 2,500 to about 5,000. But he has that many credit cards. It's not good to have as many because you're paying on all of them and you can't pay them all down. It doesn't work.
Essentially, it's just a number
Yeah.
that somebody can look at and be like, how reliable is this person based on previous.
It's about that reliability.
Yeah, but you're saying like tangibly, if your score is 720, whatever, that equates to a $30,000.
And this is really just like, this is just based off like our experiences. If you had your bank telling you and being like, this is the details where it's going to come into play, X, Y, Z, and this is why that
on the Chase app, it shows me quite regularly what I can apply for a loan for with my credit score. So it tells me I can apply up to a $420,000 home. I can apply for that and could potentially get that allegedly if I was to do that. So you can look at that and it gives you kind of an idea. So home is the most typical one that I see because I do not own one. I'm trying to think what else. It shows you a couple other ones. Obviously other credit card options because they want you more credit cards, but that's not good. So it shows me those options as well. So it kind of gives you that broad spectrum. I think it's tough to quantify individuality. They would have to do a lot of work to be able to give you that exact number and what it means to you specific. It would really be based off of you, is what the number is. Because you could have a really good credit score and not have all the things I just mentioned.
That's true,
Okay, well I think we're about ready to wrap it up. We'll tie it back to Bank of America one more time. Give me your last quick thought on them, a couple of words. If you got nothing, that's fine.
Customer service.
Okay.
I think it means a lot that I didn't know anything about them and that what I just learned was not very good information. So I think that, just on the get-go, like they need to inform people about their services and improve their services.
Word of mouth is the way to go. I don't know if anyone here has shopped at BevMo. If you have, you've probably heard that prices are high. They are, but that is something that is a word of mouth. Sometimes they are not as high, but same thing as Bank of America. Your perception is based off of what other people say about you. So you need to turn that around into a way that you can positively bring people and encourage people to come to you. Especially on the college student level, I think that's where Chase wins out, is because they're doing you a favor, because they want you later. They're gonna take advantage and take care of you now to suck you in later and take care of you later. That doesn't sound like, from my experience and from what you've said, that Bank of America is trying to do that. I think that's where you can attack people definitely from the business perspective, is if you can get the kids young and take care of them and give them the customer service that makes them feel comfortable, you're going to get service later. And that should be your end game goal, is getting the service throughout their life.
Any customer or any reputation for a company is basically based on customer service, and customer service basically comes down to relationships. So like when you're talking to, or when you have a bad interaction with a bank, that's gonna go a lot farther than having like a small positive interaction. And so, you know, when you have multiple bad interactions on every level, like from just a customer level, from somebody who's just like trying to call to get information about something or whatever, it's gonna build up and it's gonna spread out. So like if they focused on like the customer to customer relationship, it'll like grow, and like Austin said, it'll be like word of mouth, and like 2 people will get it, and then 4, then 6, all that stuff.
I think probably one of their biggest weaknesses right now is that their reputation precedes them. So they may not even be that bad, but just when people hear Bank of America, they're like, it's big, it's inaccessible, it's, you know, hard to get into. So if they worked on their reputation, which it may be too far gone, but if they focused on that, then and obviously focused on the younger generation, they might actually build a good client base.
Okay.
Totally agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, its reputation's terrible.
All right. So last question. No one here banks with Bank of America. How likely would you be? From 1 to 10, 10 absolutely, 1 very unlikely.
0.
So obviously we didn't get a lot of information because nobody banks with them. So it's hard to truly determine the answer to that question. I mean, obviously based off of this, it's a very negative vibe in the room. Someone would have to come in here and lay it down for me and give me a reason to. And they'd have to work for it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Just based off of what we've heard here today, you need to come in here and you need to figure out a way to get me to bank with you.
So it's fair to say it's very unlikely.
Very unlikely, yeah.
Okay.
Based on my experience with my bank right now, it'd be really hard to have them jump the bar.
I think I just don't know like all the services that they offer, so it would be low right now just because I don't know what they would even like offer me to bank with them.
Sure.
Very unlikely. I like what I have now, so.
Okay. Okay, well that's gonna do it. We're gonna go ahead and end the focus group. So thank you all for your time and your participation. We greatly appreciate it. And you are free to go.